Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews, and it's actually a pretty decent sized week. It's a little heavy, but not too crazy, not overwhelming. There's a fair amount of new titles, but a lot of regular ones that start. So let's get started. First up, we have Aquaman #1, written by Chuck Brown and Brandon Thomas, with artwork by Sammy Basari. So this is it. So it's Arthur Curry and Jackson Hyde, and so it just kind of starts off in the middle of that Ocean Master's trying to. He's attacking the UN because he wants to get the Atlantean representative, and there's that. And then you also find out, because Black Manta is Jackson Hyde's dad. Sorry, bit of a spoiler, but we've known that for probably half a year now. But so it's kind of a battle and stuff like that, and obviously there's something going on with people on land are getting possessed by Atlantean and becoming there's some sort of virus, and I guess you could almost say, and then they go crazy, and then they're attacking humans on land. It's so here's ultimately kind of the problem. It's kind of it was an okay read and everything, but it really wasn't. It wasn't anything special. It just kind of felt like a regular, like it was a new story arc in the middle of another story. I think the problem was that you have to kind of know what's been going on with Jace. There was the mini series with him in it that, you know, kind of introduced him to a lot of newer people that didn't know him. The ultimate thing is it's just okay. It wasn't very compelling. I mean, Brown and Thomas's story is okay, but it's you know, it's one of those things. You got a first issue, so you have people that are going to be coming in and, you know, reading this for the first time, and I don't know that there's a lot going on that was compelling enough to, like, hey, I should really continue to read this. It wasn't bad by any means, but it was just there. The one, Basari's art's actually really nice. That was the one big plus. It's a really nice looking book, but ultimately there was just nothing compelling about it. It was just okay. And I think with the amount of comics that come out like every week and then every month, okay just doesn't cut it anymore. So I can't really recommend it. It's kind of sad. I really like Aquaman, but this is just, it really misses the mark. Next up, we have Step by Bloody Step #1, written by Cy Spurrier, with artwork by Matthias Bergara. So this is quite interesting in the fact that it basically is a silent comic. There is no real dialogue. There is parts where they speak like this unknown foreign language that is not decipherable, but it's all done visually, and that is a hard thing to do. That's actually a very difficult thing to do, because people don't realize that Spurrier has to write everything out and explain it to Bagara to draw all this, and then he has to convey all the quote-unquote unwritten elements of the story, and it is one of those, it's really spectacular. Now obviously it doesn't take long to read, but the one thing that you need to do is really take your time and let all of the visuals tell that story to you. So, I mean, yeah, you can kind of flip through, oh yeah, this happens, but you really want to take your time and actually really read the story visually is really what you're doing here. And it's quite fascinating. So what it is there's this giant robot. Think of like the Iron Giant with the kids. So the robot's taking him somewhere. We don't know, but he defends him and all this kind of stuff. And obviously he's taking him somewhere that the kid needs to go to, but we don't know why or anything like that. And then we also find out, or there's kind of a side story of like, you know, he meets this family, and yet you know, the robot doesn't want him to really interact with the family. So there's kind of like a strange underpinning going on that we don't quite know about, but it's quite interesting. And like I said, Spurrier's the story is really interesting, and the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. So I really think it's kind of worth checking out. It's really rare to do a silent comic, but this one works really, really well. Next up, we have Kingjira, Hungry Like a Monster, #1. It's a one-shot, written and drawn by Marco Fontanelli. So at this point, I would say we're almost at the saturation of kaijus, but I really have to give it to Fontanelli that this was the funnest thing, because what he did is he captured kind of the joy and the fun of Godzilla. Let's be honest, this is Godzilla. He's doing Godzilla, but it's not Godzilla. And it really is simple. He comes into town. He's just hungry, dude. He's looking for a place to eat. He sees a giant pizza. You know, they're firing missiles at him, and he's like, dude, I just want pizza. And I really don't want to give away more of the story, but it is so much fun and just wild and crazy. And it's a really simple story. And sometimes, and especially in this case, that works really, really well. It's just, it's laid out. There's some nice twists and turns, but ultimately, Fontanelli never loses sight of the fact that it's just fun. And that is what makes this so amazingly charming. And the artwork is really, really gorgeous. I really have to say the artwork reminds me of Ed Piskor, which is definitely a compliment, because the level of detail that Fontanelli puts into each panel is really, really amazing. It's a really good looking book. I also like the use of color in it. It's really kind of got, and you can see by the cover, it's got a really kind of day glowy color where he just kind of goes wild with the colors, and it was really one of the best books I read this week. It is a blast, and like I said, you should definitely check it out. It was really it was a must buy this week. Next up, we have Ghost Rider #1. Written by Benjamin Percy with artwork by Corey Smith. So this is Johnny Blaze is back as Ghost Rider. And so what it is he's in this town. He had a motorcycle accident and he's trying to recover, but it's almost like the Ghost Rider demon within him is being pushed down by the psychiatrist in the town and his wife. And that's the basic story here. And then there's it appears to be possibly the villain of the thing basically ignites Ghost Rider to come back. That's the basic premise of this story. Unfortunately, it's not that the story's bad by any means. It's just not really that exciting. I mean, there's some decent elements here and there, but literally Ghost Rider doesn't show up till the end of this first issue, which is not necessarily a problem. But really, it just kind of, like, it's okay. It's just, okay, this is neat. He's going to psychiatrist, blah, 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 and he's having bad dreams, blah, blah, blah. It's really just kind of basic. There's really nothing here that's compelling or new or fresh. I will say that Smith's artwork is actually really nice. It's a really good-looking book. But really, honestly, this has the same exact problem that Aquaman does. It's all nice and everything, but there's nothing compelling to once you read this to even bother coming back for a second issue. It was like, okay, that's nice. Ooh, he's Ghost Rider, and he's stuck in this town and stuff. Whoopee. It's just, once again, it's just not good enough. And once again, at especially, I think it's a $6 cover price. That is, yep, $6, and it is not worth it. Next up, we have The Killer Affairs of the State #1, written by Mats with artwork by Luke Giacomo. So this is actually a foreign title that's been translated, and so what it is, it's about a killer, or assassin, a hired assassin who basically kind of, he works in an office, but that's a cover to blend in and not stand out. So if somebody recognizes him, they might, oh, well, he works at the office. This is Joe at the office. He's a really cool guy. So it's very interesting because this first issue is really just about them. So they have their mark, but their mark is never alone. So they kind of, so there's this balance between them, you know, kind of stalking the guy, trying to find their timing where they can assassinate him without anybody knowing. But then there's also like he's developing where he has to feel like he needs to blend into the office and kind of act like a normal person. So it's really quite interesting in that respect. And for the most part, it's really, there's virtually no action beyond the setup at the beginning of the story. It's really dialogue-y, but it not in a bad way. It's very interesting, and I think it's very psychological in a very different way. It takes a very different approach to like a hired assassin, and Matz's script is really, really good, and Jacquemin's art I really, really liked. It had just a very kind of plain look, but that worked really well, especially with the office setup where it just a lot of it was the way the art was done, and then of course the coloring on top of that. It was really interesting. I was very kind of surprised by that book. And I think it's definitely worth checking out. It was very different and unique. Next up, we have Rockstar and Softboy, #1, written and drawn by Sienna Grace. So what this is, it's about a couple of roommates who happen to be gay. Not that that's any big deal. And so they're like opposites, but they also have a lot in common, even though they have different things in common. And so the one guy says, hey, you know, so what it is Softboy's, you know, he's working on this game that he's developing and everything. And so he's really just put his mind into that. And Rockstar's like, you need to get laid because you're just not happy and you're too focused on your game. You need to spice up your life. So Rockstar decides to throw this party for him where it really is a party for Rockstar, but he's trying to convince Softboy, no, it's a party for you. And so it's just like there's a lot of craziness going on. Then they inadvertently, the witches that come to the party summon a party animal to it, and then it turns into like this weird kind of Sailor Moon superhero thing, and it's just really wild. I think what I liked about it, I mean, I've been a fan of Grace's, like he's been doing a lot of writing lately. I really like his stories, and this is one of the first times he's actually done the full artwork on his books. And I think what's interesting about it is, one, first of all, it's really great to see more diversity in comics with both story and artwork. And I like the fact that it centers around these two, the LGBTQ community, but it's very normal at the same time. It really shows that there's no difference between anybody in their preferences or how they live and everything. Everybody's the same. We all have these same like friends and stuff like that. That I really liked, where it's just very normal, and that I really appreciated. The other thing that was really quite interesting is his artwork, because he has a very simplistic style, but in a way that really benefits this book. There's just I think having very simple artwork like this just makes it even that much more charming while you're reading it. It just has a warm, fuzzy feeling while we're reading it with the artwork, and it's just a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was something. It's that kind of slice of life type story, and you don't really get to see a lot of them in mainstream. You tend to see more of those in like the graphic novels and stuff like that, where this is more comic book. So I think it hits the mark, and I think it's also like a square bound book. So I think that is it kind of will have a good shelf life to it. But definitely check it out. It was a lot of fun, and it was really charming, and just really just a lot of fun. Next up, we have Bolero #2, written by Wyatt Kennedy with artwork by Luna Vecchio. So I really, really like the first issue of this. And so what it is Devin has, so she wants to kind of fix her broken heart. And so she's been given a key to go through time to what you would see, like her different past lives, to kind of fix her broken heart and find love again. The problem is that the first issue, like I said, the first issue was really good. It set up everything. The problem I had with the second issue was the way that the story was structured. Now, I understand that, there's going to be time jumps and stuff, but it's almost like there's a story in between the first issue and the second issue that is missing, where it just starts in the Victorian age, and then it just jumps around. So you have all these time jumps, but yet there's not a huge connection between them. Yes, I get that Devin is jumping through time and we see her, but I think the problem is it becomes very disjointed while you're reading it, because it just keeps jumping, where I think it's that Kennedy tried to pack too many different stories into one issue, and it really just, I really like it, and I think it's a really good concept, but the second issue just really did not land well for me, and it's very disjointed while you're reading it, and it's a real shame, because I think there's a really good idea here. I just think the execution wasn't well done with the story. Vecchio's artwork is really, really nice. It's a good looking book. It's really tough, because I really like the first issue and I do like the second issue. I think it's just, story-wise, it's a bit of a mess. And unfortunately, I'm really hoping that the third issue kind of is able to kind of pick up the pieces from this second issue's problem and fix a lot of it going forward. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. I will definitely check out the third issue, but I was kind of disappointed with this second issue. Next up, we have Human Target #5, written by Tom King with artwork by Greg Smallwood. So this issue is the story of him. He's going to interview Martian Manhunter and find out. What's interesting, this is what I love about King is, so the first 4 issues are like, he meets Ice. The story is about him talking to her. Then there's the guy Gardner. Then there's the Blue Beetle. So the issues preceding have always been, like the interview. So when going in, you're thinking, oh, okay, well, he's going to go talk to Martian Manhunter and find out what's going on. No, it's actually, this is what I love about King, how he keeps you on your toes, because you expect that, but yet this story really ends up not being too much about John. There's a lot about it, and I don't want to say too much, because there's a big kind of reveal within what John and Fire might be up to, but it really also has to do with his past. And so we see we see things from the Human Target when he was a kid, things that have happened that affect him and how he is today. So it really was just a 360 that was amazing. It just blew my mind how good this issue was. I mean, this book has been amazing. This issue was just fantastic. It was, and then Smallwood's art, just that guy just is really knocking out. This is like one of the best looking books. This is the book of, honestly, I think of 2022. This book is amazing. It just keeps, each issue just gets better and better. And it has this great, it just oozes with noir, and it's just, so you have this noir crime drama, and it's just amazing. It's just absolutely wonderful. I love it to death. I highly recommend it. This book is, you just need to be reading it. Next up, we have House of Slaughter #5. written by, the story is by James Tynan IV and Tate Bromble. The script is by Tate Bromble, with artwork by Chris Sheehan. So now we have, in a way, this issue is kind of one where it's a bit of a middle-ish type issue where we're learning stuff about both Jace and Aaron, and so we're finding out how Jace has been hunting down Aaron, but now we've learned things about Aaron where Aaron wants to take down the House of Slaughter, and we kind of start learning why. And we also find out that Aaron has been, once he saves the kids from monsters, he has like this camp where he's kind of rehabilitating them from their trauma. And it's like I said, in a way, there's a lot going on with this story, and in other ways, there's not. So it's kind of like I said, it's kind of an interesting issue. Once again, I still like the story and everything. And I think, but it's also like a story that's, I think, is going to work better when you read it as a whole. But as a single issue, I did like this issue. Sheehan's artwork continues. I like his artwork. I think it gives it a good look and everything. And I just find it really interesting. Like I said, this issue is not going to blow you away, but if you've been reading it, there's a, it kind of fills in more of the story, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And Bromble is I think really developing the story quite well. Next up, we have Soul Plumber #5, written by Marcus Parks and Henry Zabarsky, with pencils by P.J. Holden, with inks by P.J. Holden and John McCrae. So the good thing is, the last issue I was a little frustrated. I mean, it fits into the story, but it wasn't a good standalone issue in that respect. It was hard. There was a lot. There's a lot of things that happened in that issue that are very important to the whole story. But when you just kind of read it as a month, it was really rough. But this issue really got back on track with the story for me. So you have Edgar and Elk and Blorp. They're traveling to the plumber convention, where we find out that the evil bad guy is going to bring demons to the world. That's what the Soul Plumber machines are meant to be, where they can invade Earth. And so they take off to this, basically this Jesus plumber convention, and they need to, their whole job is to try to stop the demons from coming in. So that's the basic premise of this issue. There's some really wild stuff. I love the stuff with Blorp. That's just amazing. He's kind of like a ghost, but not, he can interact with people. It's really just, this book is just the wildest thing I've ever read. It's freaking nuts. But that's what it's one of those things. It's literally like herding cats. It's controlled chaos. I don't know. I really don't know how Zabarsky and Park are pulling everything off story-wise and making it work, because a lot of this stuff is just batshit crazy. But that's what makes it so good, is that it's so crazy and yet it's working so well. And Holden is just really, I really like the artwork. And then John McCrae's ink. It's just a really good looking book, and the artwork really fits the story so well. It just has a really just visually amazing look that fits so well with this story. It's just good. I really love this book. If you're a horror fan, this is just fun stuff. Next up, we have Black Hammer Reborn #9, written by Jeff Lemire, with artwork by Catlin Yarsky. So this issue, so we have the two worlds that are, it's like Inception. We got two worlds that are almost colliding. So Lucy and Skulldigger they have to find Doc Andromeda, because he knows how the Doc Andromeda from like their side is on the other side. And so they think, they're hoping that he can like reverse it and fix everything. But then, of course, we have Sherlock Frankenstein as the villain, who's like, wait a second, we got to stop this. So there's a lot going on in this, and I know we're at the 9th issue. I'm really loving this. As you know, I'm a huge Black Hammer fan. Lemire is just really, I'm really digging this series, because you have you have these characters that you know, and then you have these opposite characters where they may be good, they may be bad. There's a big surprise appearance by a character that I'm not going to give away, that really just changes the whole playfield to where the story has been going. It has to do with Lucy Weber, and I'm not going to say, but it is wild. It's amazing. Yarsky's artwork continues to just be really good on this book. Lemire is just bringing the A game to this particular miniseries. I love it to death. It's been a must buy, but like I said, for a lot of people, you know, it's not a bad thing. Wait till the whole thing's collected and get it in one shot, because this is really good stuff. And finally this week, we have BRZRKR, number 7, written by Keanu Reeves and Matt Kent, with artwork by Ron Garney. So what's interesting about this issue is we know about BRZRKR, but now we find out what the government has really been doing with the quote-unquote experiments on him, because the one doctor has discovered that over the years there have been artifacts and things that have been keys to find out what his real purpose is. His purpose is not necessarily to not die and fight people. There's another reason. He's discovered this reason. So once again, he's trying to figure out what the key to the two things, what BRZRKR really is, and what his purpose is. And that's really what this issue is about. And it's quite interesting because, you know, there's been a lot of, like, you know, it started off with like a big, you know, John Wick, but as Conan the Barbarian, just killing people left and right. And it's been really interesting with Kent and Reeves' story, where they've really developed the much more characterization than I would have ever thought. And this issue is really, once again, it's kind of like a middle issue but there's a lot of underlying story that really brings a lot of the story together. So it'll be really interesting to see how the events from what has happened in this issue going forward, heading into the final part of the story. So it's going to be really interesting. And I love his artwork. He's really doing a bang up job on this book. It really looks nice. And once again, it's really, there's just a lot of talking and dialogue in this particular issue. And it looks great. This has been a really big, surprising book. That's going to do it this week. So we got through pretty well. I think we covered things pretty well. There was a few misses this week, but overall there's some really, really good reads. Once again, as public service announcement, I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach. Ryan runs a great store. Annie and Eduardo are fantastic. Great customer service. They have a good pull service. Gives you a discount. They offer trades and graphic novels at 30% off. It's a really great comic store. It's everything you want in a comic store. And the customer service is just so good there. There is a sister store, Pulp Fiction Culver City in Culver City. Run by Chris and her team, same name, different, completely separate owners, but same. She offers, her and her team are great. They offer discounts, they offer pull service, and they're really good stores in the LA area. If you live in the LA area, if you live like near Culver City, check that out. If you live near the Long Beach area, definitely check out Pulp Fiction Long Beach. Once again, things are looking good. Please be safe. Make sure you're vaccinated. I know the mask mandates, but if, like, I feel much more comfortable wearing masks, I'm going to continue wearing my mask and social distance, but really just be safe out there. That is really the biggest key. There's a lot of things going on in the world. We're not going to really, get too depressed and stuff about that, but, it really goes back to what I always say. Is that to please be kind to each other. Kindness is really even more important now than ever. Just be kind to each other, and just you know, take care of yourselves. That's really the most important. And also, please support your local comic shop. This is it's really supporting your comic shop is really important. After we've seen the disaster of Comixology, we're not going to get into that train wreck, but that is why I always say, when you buy physical comics, you have them right in front of you, and you don't have to worry about anything except for storage, and that's a whole nother issue. But anyways, that's going to do it this week, folks. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, be kind, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. This is Steven from Pop Culture Maven signing out. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.